What's up guys, welcome back to the Kommander MTG YouTube channel. I'm your host Jason Komm, and today we have another Kommander Spotlight. This time we have Isshin, 2 Heavens is 1. This Mardu Commander doubles attack triggers of permanents we control and is extremely powerful and spicy Commander to play. Not only that, but I built an awesome $55 budget deck featuring all the cards in today's video. You can check out that link in the description below. Let's get into it. First on our list is a card from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, Gorogoro, Disciple of Ryusei. This card has 2 abilities. First, we can pay 1 red mana to give all our creatures haste until end of turn, and second, for 5 mana we can create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying if we have a modified creature in play. Since this deck is built around attack triggers, being able to pay 1 red and instantly cash in on all our attack value is huge for this deck. It gives us the early game push to start applying pressure immediately with its first ability, and comes in handy late game to start playing out 5/5 flyers to finish our opponents off. Next up is Thundering Raiju. This 4 mana 3/3 has haste, and whenever it attacks we put a 1/1 counter on a creature we control, then it deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of modified creatures we control other than Thundering Raiju. This card snowballs so fast, and the fact that it has haste immediately puts pressure on our opponents. Imagine the combo of having Ishin in play with Thundering Raiju and Sky Knight Vanguard. When we attack, we trigger Sky Knight Vanguard first to create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens thanks to Ishin. Then we trigger Thundering Raiju's ability twice, giving each of those soldier tokens a +1/+1 counter. This causes Thundering Raiju to then deal 2 damage to each opponent since we have 2 modified creatures in play. Now we have an amazing engine setup that will snowball each and every turn that will drain our opponents and put a lot of bodies in front of them. Next on our list is Ember Captain. This 4 mana 4/2 introduces the Monarch to the game. Also, when an opponent attacks us while we're the Monarch, it deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand. I absolutely love this card. First of all, Mardu can always use a little extra card draw, and second, we're going to be attacking a lot and amassing a pretty wide board. This means we'll be able to be in possession of the Monarch a lot of the game. The best part about Ishin is that he triggers off of any attack that triggers an ability of a permanent we control. That means when someone attacks us while we're the Monarch, they'll take damage equal to the number of the cards in their hand twice. This will deter just about everyone from wanting to attack you. Even if they only have 3 cards in hand when they attack, they will take 6 damage from Ember Captain to only draw 1 card at their end step. That is nuts, and the beauty of this card is that it adds a level of complexity to the game and forces your opponents to make some difficult choices, and that's why you need to play this card in your Ishin deck. Next up is Tori Davnet Fury Rider. This 4 mana 3/3 has Vigilance and Trample. Whenever it attacks, all other attacking creatures we control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Other red attacking creatures we control gain Trample until end of turn, and we untap other attacking white creatures we control. In a deck where we will be attacking a lot, getting +2/+2 to all other attacking creatures thanks to Ishin is amazing. Giving the red creatures Trample is nasty, and giving white creatures basically Vigilance is the freaking cherry on top. This card does so much for 4 mana. It pumps our creatures, helps us get damage through, and protects us from crackbacks. I don't think I need to explain it anymore, just play this card. Next up is Tectonic Giant. This 4 mana 3/4 has whenever it attacks or becomes the target of a spell from an opponent, choose 1. It either deals 3 damage to each opponent or exiles the top 2 cards of our library, and until end of our next turn, we can play them. I love this card because if you need to start pushing damage through, you can activate its first ability twice with Ishin out, dealing 6 damage to each opponent. But if it's early game and you're trying to develop your board, you can use its second mode to look at the top 4 cards and play 2 of them. This pseudo card draw will help us hit our land drops and find those important pieces like Goro or Tori Davnet more consistently. Next up is Krenko, 10 Strength Kingpin. This 3 mana 1/2 goblin has whenever Krenko attacks, put a 1/1 counter on him, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to his power. Imagine having Ishin in play and attacking with Krenko the first time. Krenko will get a +1/+1 counter and 2 goblin tokens from the first trigger. Then Ishin would trigger, causing Krenko to get another +1/+1 counter and putting another 3 goblin tokens into play. See how this can snowball out of control after just a couple of turns? This gives more targets for Thundering Raiju to modify. It also gives us an army of 3/3 Tramplers with Tori Davnet to crash in for some serious damage. This card has to be dealt with or your opponents won't have enough blockers to save them. Next up is Brutal Horde Chief. This 4 mana 3/3 has whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It also has for 5 mana, creatures your opponents control block this turn if able, and you choose how those creatures block. Take the scenario we just talked about with Krenko, 10 Street Kingpin, and Isshin. Imagine you have Isshin, Krenko, 5 Goblin tokens, and Brutal Horde Chief in play when you attack with Isshin, Krenko, and the 5 Goblin tokens. Krenko will trigger twice thanks to Isshin, making him a 5/5 and creating 9 more Goblin tokens. Now we activate Brutal Horde Chief's second ability to make all our opponent's creatures block one of our Goblin tokens and nothing else. We will do 14 damage and gain 14 life from Brutal Horde Chief's first ability thanks to Isshin. Then combat damage will go through where another 12 damage gets through because we use Brutal Horde Chief's second ability to remove all the blockers. This card synergizes so well with Isshin and the rest of the cards in this deck and provides some much needed life gain to the equation. Next up is Fervent Charge. This 4 mana enchantment has whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This card is so straightforward and so powerful in Isshin, it's difficult to see any variation of this deck not including it. With Isshin in play, our creatures will get +4/+4 when they attack each turn. Imagine having an extra combat on top of that, +8/+8 to each creature. This card pairs extremely well with Krenko that each turn he snowballs out of control, your 1/1 goblins become a massive 5/5 threat. Add Tori Davenant on top of that and each of them gets another +2/+2 and trample. The constant threat this card poses will definitely make you the biggest threat at the table, so have fun smashing face. Next up is Karlak, Fury of Avernus. This is one of my favorite cards from Commander Legends 2 and is absolutely nasty in Isshin. This 5 mana 5/4 has whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until the end of turn, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. With Isshin in play, this would give us 2 additional combat steps, but there is a caveat to that. Karlak's ability only causes our creatures to untap during our first combat phase of the turn, meaning we can freely attack in the second combat step, but now all our creatures will be tapped, making the third combat completely useless, unless we have Tori Davenant or Brave the Sands in play. Can you imagine having Isshin, Goro, Brave the Sands, Krenko, and 5 Goblin tokens in play with Karlak out? We could swing Krenko and the Goblins, and thanks to Isshin, Krenko will become a 5/5 and make 9 more Goblin tokens. Karlak would trigger twice thanks to Isshin, and because of Brave the Sands, they each have Vigilance. Now we pay 1 red into Goro to give all these newly created tokens haste, and we head into our second combat. Krenko becomes a 7/7 and creates 13 more Goblin tokens, and now we are swinging out with 14 Goblins and a 7/7 Krenko, all with Vigilance. Now rinse and repeat for the third combat, and I think you get the point. Karlak giving us 2 combat phases every turn will absolutely break this deck, but if we're positioned well enough to take advantage of the third combat, it is game over. Lastly, my favorite card for Isshin, Etali, Primal Storm. I absolutely love this card and put it in every deck that I can. This 6 mana 6/6 has whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then we can cast any number of spells from among them without paying their mana costs. Pairing Etali with any form of haste makes him extremely nasty, but doubling his trigger each turn is absolutely nuts. Every time Etali attacks, we'll get to look at the top 2 cards of each player's library, and the possibilities are endless. That's why I love this card. It adds so much tension and variety to your game because you never know what you're going to get. You could get a Rampant Growth, which would be awesome, or you could get a freaking Blightsteel. Imagine doing this 3 times a turn with Karlak and Brave the Sands in play, and I don't see how that wouldn't be the most fun game of Commander you've ever played. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching my Isshin 2 Heavens is 1 Commander Spotlight. If you like these cards, be sure to check out my budget deck in the description below, and let me know in the comments which cards you would include in your Isshin deck. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. That gives me the confidence and the motivation to keep putting out Commander content like this. Thanks for watching Commander NTG. I'll see you in the next one.